You are listening to the Star Coach Podcast with Meg Rentschler, episode 49.
Welcome to Star Coaches, the show for professional coaches that brings you coaching strategies, tools, and resources. Whatever your focus or niche, take a front seat weekly as industry leaders, decision makers, and innovators share their wisdom and expertise on the ins and outs of successful coaching. Now join your host, Meg Rentschler, as she connects you with your star coaching potential.
Hello, Star Coach listeners. So great to have you here. Thanks for joining the show today. I have a wonderful guest lined up for you and am looking forward to sharing her interview with you in just a moment. But I wanted to take a second to talk about community. That is something that if you're on my email list, you're getting some emails about the importance of community and belonging and us sort of working together. And I also received an email today from a listener about how we could better interact as a community to share some insights that each of you are receiving from the show. And I thought that that was a fabulous idea. The Star Coach Show is about to hit its 1-year anniversary. So you now have had, this is our 49th show. We're close to, and actually if you include the intro show, we're actually at number 50 today. So you've had lots of different information brought to you, insights shared, different wisdom over this past 11 months. And the point that was brought forward that I want to encourage is how can we begin communication about, wow, this show really struck me this way, or I was able to apply this principle to my work with a client and this is what happened. If we could begin to get some communication going about how you're utilizing the information that you're gaining from the show. I would love to have some communication about that. We do have a Facebook page, Star Coach Show on Facebook, and that might be a great place to kind of get some of this communication going. If you could post something about your favorite show or something that you learned from a show that you were then able to apply to your relationship with your family or something that you did with a client, that could be really dynamic. So that's my challenge to you for you kind of giving back to one another after almost a year, hopefully listening to the show at whatever point during this year you started to listen to the show. Even if today is your very first show, I encourage you to go to our Facebook page. I will post that link on starcoachshow.com so that you can access our Facebook page. We actually have the link on that page. You can access and we can begin a discussion. What are you enjoying about the show? I love that idea. I want to thank Vera for sending that idea in, and let's go ahead and begin a discussion. Now, today we're going to talk about how we bring value to our clients and how we position our practices in such a way that we are able to create the kind of value we want for our clients while also creating an income that helps us be the best we can be, so we're not in a place of scarcity or panic when we're trying to serve our clients. Our guest today is Jen Thornton. She's been involved in cultivating commercial and human resources leadership for over 20 years. She has this incredible history with working with diverse international teams and multicultural teams, and is also a certified Clifton Strengths coach. So what we're going to talk about today is how she's taken that background of being able to work with these multicultural teams, to build teams, to help executives be the best that they can be, and leverage her experience with the Clifton Strengths assessment, as well as a bit of a retail side of her practice, which is in offering a traits assessment to companies to help them maximize their workforce. So Jennifer talks today about the value that she's able to bring, through being a strengths coach. And we spend the first half of the interview looking at how a coach can leverage strengths assessment. And in this situation, the Clifton Strengths Assessment, to maximize a client's self-awareness, to take those strengths and sort of help look through that lens of what somebody is best at. And then we're also going to look at how she positioned her practice and her reason for also using the OAD assessment as a retail portion of her practice to also help companies bring out the best in their employees and to give her a foot in the door, per se, to be able to showcase and pay attention to what the company most needs, but also be able to bring in what she does best for companies. So it's a really dynamic interview. I encourage you to listen all the way through to the end. Jennifer gives value through the entire interview. And like I said, if you find something that really stands out to you, something that you might work with or apply to your practice, let's have a discussion on our Facebook page. Let's go to our interview with Jennifer Thornton. Jennifer, welcome to the show. It is awesome to have you here.
Oh, great to see you too.
So I am excited to explore with you a couple of the specialties that you bring into the field of coaching. And so I'd like to start with maybe first, what did interest you in coaching and a little bit about your background and what's brought you to the place that you're in right now?
Yeah. So, my background, it came from retail, actually. I grew up in the retail industry, started actually as a store manager for a large retailer and worked my way through, district manager and through the commercial side. And that's, kind of where I started coaching. You have teams of 50 people in a store, a lot of young adults, and, spending time with them and, coaching them, providing them feedback and encourage them, is kind of part of, the success of those early days. And then, I transitioned into HR. I did recruiting, learning and development. And then the last 4 years of my retail career, I was an international. And when it was time for me to kind of make a decision on what I wanted next, I just spent time thinking about what I loved to do. Where did I get great feedback? Where were my strengths? And at the end of the day, I knew very clearly it was in coaching. It was when I felt that I contributed the most. It was where I got the feedback and the thank yous. And I just really, stopped and paused and said, this is the path. I looked at the past success and, I'm going to leverage it in the future.
Excellent. So with your coaching, you have a particular focus. You are a certified strengths coach. Tell us a little bit about that and what created that focus for you in your coaching.
So yes, I'm a certified Clifton strength coach, and I, discovered the strength product and learned about it in my, past retail career. I worked for an organization, and we were a strength-based organization. So I saw firsthand how it really built teams, how you could, talk to someone around their development and really spend time talking to them about what made them great versus focusing, which we so often do in the workplace, focusing on what they're not doing and really saying, okay, here is the place you're struggling. How do we do it your way versus doing it the way that their supervisor wanted them to or a coworker had done it in the past? And so I really fell in love with strengths, through just working with it and in practical application. And then in 2016, I had the opportunity to go through the certification process with Gallup. And it's, was one of those moments in your life where you're like, this is the week I made some big decisions. And it was the week that I really decided that, when I did have my own practice, that strengths was going to be a part of it. And it is today.
Excellent. I heard you say once, and I think that this is so powerful, that when you worked internationally with your company, you were able to use strengths as a common language. And
Yes.
because internationally, obviously, there's many languages.
Yes.
So just that statement that we use strengths as sort of the common language in the culture, how did that impact the culture, using strengths as your common language?
Yeah, it was really great. I worked on a team, and at any given time in a week in a meeting, we could have over 20 countries represented. And so the difference in culture and language, there was a lot of differences. And we spent a lot of times talking about the differences, and we spent a lot of time being frustrated where U.S. teams struggled, to communicate with a team from, Japan. And so what we did is we said, let's kind of come back and say, where are we common and how do we appreciate that? And so that became strengths. And so we started in markets, where we owned and operated stores in Hong Kong and China, London, Mexico, and started working with our international U.S. team to help them understand strengths. And so instead of focusing on our cultural differences, we're able to find our culture similarities. People would say, oh, I'm an achiever too, instead of saying, oh, this is different. It was all about what we were the best at and where we were the same. And it really changed that conversation from a negative conversation to a very positive conversation. And it built energy and excitement. And people, were always looking forward to these meetings that they used to dread, because we got to talk about strengths and go through coaching and all of those things on top of, the day-to-day tasks that we were there to accomplish.
That is so cool. And one of the other things, so people were noting when other people shared their strengths. As a matter of fact, you and I shared that 3 of our top 5 strengths are similar. How does that also work? Let's say you're coaching a team and you're using strengths, how does complementary strengths, or, oh, you have that's something that is not even like in my top 10 strengths. How can that help build teams and from a coaching perspective, sort of coming in with that strengths focus, how can you leverage different strengths?
Yeah, so great question. And, we did a lot of strength discovery around our goal setting. And so if we had a specific goal, we would look at our tactics that we needed, and we would look at, the core skill sets we would need against that goal. But what we've added to that, which was very different in the workplace, is we added, what strengths do we need? And so when we set these big goals and we were around a table, we talked about that. And then was who has that and where in the project does that enter? So we could say, at the beginning of this project, we need our learners, our analytical people. We need a lot of people who can, get the information pulled together, get all the details. And then we needed some more of our influencers, if they needed to go to the executive team and influence change, so then it's like, where do you pass that baton and who do you pass it to based on their strengths? And really understanding that all of us played an important part, but why did we play it? What was our responsibility to the group? And when did we show up to play that role? It was very important, and we saw some big success from it.
Excellent. So as people begin to realize, oh, wow, I'm a learner, so I'm going to be motivated to bring in new information and to learn that new information and seek out that information. But we're going to need this influencer because I'm not comfortable necessarily going and influencing the upper echelons, or maybe we need somebody who is strategic to do X, Y, and Z. So how did you basically, and how might a coach help first of all, maybe understand where each of these strengths is best utilized?
Yeah. So it started through team dynamics. And so we took all of our, teams as a unit. So, example, the team in Mexico, we took them as a unit. Then we took the international franchise team as a unit, and we did team sessions with them because it was important for them to understand not only their own strengths, but their teams before we started integrating. And so that was our first key. And as a coach, you can come in to a group and help them really start to understand where their team strengths are. Are they heavy in one area or another? You can use exercises to kind of explore the different strengths, talk about conflict, talk about goals, and, do some really robust team engagement exercises to start to help the team discover what their strengths are and how they can use it. And a lot of times, once you started that process, then the people you're working with are saying, oh, I could use it for this, or, oh, no wonder why I'm always picking that up, or, oh my gosh, if I'd only known, I would have called you every time I got to this point where I got stuck. And so honestly, once they start to, learn the program and be educated on their team strengths and their own, it's just beautiful to watch them actually come up with some great ideas
and connect those dots, huh?
Yeah, they do. It's a lot of fun. And then you take those different groups and then you start to integrate them because they're comfortable as an individual. They're now comfortable in their direct group. And then how do you then take all of them and start to move them together and be very strategic at it? And, as a coach, we can kind of step out and watch the group and help bring them together in a way that allows them to then focus on their team versus focusing on the strategy.
It's really fun stuff, exciting stuff. Seeing people's eyes light up, seeing that maybe this other person has always annoyed me, but now I realize that aspect that they were bringing forward is part of their strength.
Absolutely.
So how can I maybe shift my perspective of how I interpret that, how I interact with, and as I think all of us as coaches know, any strength used to too high of a degree might become a weakness. So then how do I help people leverage their strengths in a way that is more conducive to the overall flow rather than maybe overpowering, like using too much pepper, kind of brings a dish from being, oh, that's yummy to, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, that packs a punch. So how do you, as you are marketing your practice now and work coming from that place of being a Clifton strengths coach, as well as leveraging your coaching ability at all, how does being a certified strengths coach impact the way that you approach clients from a marketing standpoint?
Yeah. Well, the great thing about the Clifton Strengths is it has a great fan base. A lot of people have heard of it. They, have heard very positive things. And so, it does help that, it's a known product out there. On top of that, you enter a conversation, when you're selling, your business or your product, with facts. And, the Clifton organization and Gallup, they have so many resources to help you understand the tool, sell the tool, and there's a lot of analytics when it comes to the workplace, So in the workplace, those who are able to use their strengths daily, their engagement goes up, turnover goes down, productivity and profit go up. And so there's all these research that you can use when talking to a client about their business and their business needs. And there's proof in the results.
That's really powerful as well. One of the questions I get asked frequently by whether it's new coaches or coaches who have been practicing for a while is there's so many certifications out there. There's so many different kinds of specialties. They're all an investment in time and money and resources. So if I were to just sort of, and we're not selling anything here, but just, if you were to say, what your level of satisfaction with choosing that certification for yourself, where would you put, how satisfied you are with that?
Yeah. I would say very satisfied, and a couple of reasons why. Number one, it's a great product and it is incredible to use with clients. It helps them not only in the workplace, but at home and as parents and their relationships. So it is a tool that can help people in so many different facets of their life. On top of that, Gallup and for the Clifton Strengths, they provide so many great resources. And, there's obviously just the certification process you go through, but for anyone who is a strength champion, you can go to the YouTube channel and there are free webinars and interviews. They've got an incredible blog. They have Facebook pages. And so, many of the people that are interacting out there with strengths, we call them strength champions because they truly are champions. They're out there, talking about strengths, using strengths in their daily life. And there's just so many resources so that you can continue to improve and work. Of course, learner is one of my strengths. And so any opportunity that I can leverage my learner keeps me happy and my clients happy. So I'm always out listening to the podcast.
That it's important to know that there are so many resources to be able to
Absolutely.
access. And one of the other things that you said, and I'm going to own up to this with the audience, I apologize. Sometimes I get focused because I'm an executive coach and I work with leadership teams. I get pumped and excited about what it can do within an organization. But the truth is, strengths is something that couples can use and families can use. And there's a parent strength. There's actually a strengths assessment for like 10 to 14-year-olds, correct?
Correct.
So
yep.
There's lots of different ways. We were talking about leveraging it with new grads or college students, and you were talking about how you leverage it with people who are going into interviews. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was fascinating.
Yeah. So, you're absolutely right. You can use strengths in every piece of your life. There's strength-based marriage, strength-based parenting, strength-based faith, everything out there you can imagine, they've used it. In the interview space, when you're out interviewing, you get asked all the time, what are you good at? What are you not good at? And really helping someone understand their strengths and not only understand what they are, but how do they show up in the workplace allows them to go into these interviews and very confidently describe who they are in the workplace. So for example, if you are an achiever and your interview, of course, you're not going to say, I'm an achiever, I'm going to, achieve things, but you can say things like, you get the best out of me when have the opportunity to work on teams that are very productive, tight timelines, that it's very important to close a deal or close a project. And so you're able to communicate so clearly to your potential employer what you do well. And I think that can make a big difference when you're looking for that right match.
Huge difference when you're able to communicate it in a way that speaks to what they want to hear. Not what they want to hear, like that you're filling them with stuff that isn't true, but that you're articulating it in a way that employers want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, and it works on the flip side. When you go in, you're interviewing the employer also. And so you start to ask questions to learn if that environment's going to be great for your strengths. So if you are someone who is very analytical, you can, talk to the organization, tell me about how you evaluate success. What numbers do you use to evaluate success? And so those questions you ask will help you identify if it's the right place for you to be. So it works on both sides. And I think, when you're looking for the right job, not only is the actual job important, but how you do that job and the environment in which you do that job are just as important, if not more important, so you can be successful.
Great stuff. You have sort of two facets of your business. And I know many listeners are interested in how do I create a successful, thriving business, doing what I'm passionate about, bringing value to my clients. And when you made a decision to go into your practice, you were very intentional about sort of two routes that you were going to take in your business. We've just spent some time talking about strengths, and that's a core piece of what you do. But you also have decided to have a focus of OAD. Tell us a little bit about what is OAD and what has that done for your business?
Yeah. So the OAD, it's Organization, Analyze, and Design. And it's a tool that I have used in my previous life in an organization. It's an adjective-based assessment. It takes like 5 minutes to do it. So it's incredibly time efficient. And it gives you a really clear viewpoint in someone's traits. So it is introvert, extrovert, level of assertiveness, emotional control when it comes to decision-making, creativity and decision-making. And so this tool can be used in the workplace for many reasons. It is, used as an assessment tool. Then once someone starts the organization, it's a coaching tool. You understand this person, how they're hardwired. So as a supervisor, how do I coach them? You can use it for team building to ensure that you're very well-rounded, conflict resolution. So there's a lot of uses for it in the workplace. And, I worked with it for years, over 10 years myself in the workplace. So I knew that the product was productive and worth its value and brought, something to the table.
How did you become familiar with it? You said you used it for years. So how did your organization become familiar with it, maybe?
Yeah.
Your
so
previous
my
organization.
previous organization. So one of our HR executives brought it to the table, and we started using it in the corporate environment and at different levels in management. But over time, we started using that assessment with every single sales associate we or hired.
Wow.
All the way up to our CEO. So it became part of our culture. And it was great at, kind of that lower entry level job, because if I am, someone who is very processed and I like, to understand what my job is going to look like and rules. And it's my first job. I'm, 18 years old, my first job, and I'm at the mall. Well, based on that, we knew that it was likely that you would be really successful out of the gate as maybe a stock person or a cashier. And so we wanted to put these young adults entering into the workplaces in places where they would naturally fit. And then once they got comfortable there, then we would train them to do many things, and they could do, anything throughout the store. But, your first job is so hard. So why not place someone where they were going to naturally be the best fit? And so it was a really productive tool to improve workplace satisfaction, reduce turnover, and those types of things.
Excellent. So how are you using the OAD survey to leverage your practice and your business?
Yeah, so I'm a sales distributor for the product. And so I have that second piece of my business, like we spoke about. And that piece allows me to go out to businesses, sell the product, talk about the benefits, and build really great relationships with organizations. And then as I continue building those relationships, I can then offer them coaching, team building, succession plan workshops. So that OAD is kind of an entry into the conversation about how to continue to develop your organization and your key members. And, it can help me, it helps me grow my business on the coaching side, but also provides me with income on another side. And as I grow my practice with a product that I truly believe in, and I know the difference it can make.
So if an organization wanted to utilize the tool, they buy the tool so that they can kind of use it with their, paint that picture a little clearer.
Yeah. So basically, once someone decides to use the OAD for their organization, they get their own specific website portal. They can process those assessments on their own, and then they get those results back. Part of the requirements of using the OAD is that individuals that are using it go through very specific OAD training. So their HR department, for example, would be highly trained on exactly how to read the assessment, use the assessment. We have different types of trainings, the basics up to a train the trainer program. And during the time period, that organization really starts to see how they can use it to drive their business. And as a consultant, it's opportunity for me to work with them and help them find ways to use the tool to get the results that they're looking for.
Excellent. So then you build that relationship, and it's possible that could then leverage into some additional business with the organization, maybe doing some coaching of leadership teams or creating trainings. There's many different things that people might be interested in, but it gives you a door into the organization. As you said, it brings an income for you, which is always helpful because we don't want to fall into a place of desperation in our businesses. That doesn't tend to attract people.
Nope.
And then you're able to continue to build relationships and bring value on many different levels.
Yeah, it does. It provides a lot of variety while still working with my ideal customer. My ideal customer is, corporate environment, companies who are very focused on the health and success of their employees. And so though I have a very targeted customer, I have a lot of variety I can bring that customer. I can bring, a trait-based assessment that they can use across their entire organization. I can bring strengths to them. And if they want to be a strength-based organization, strengths and OAD work beautifully together because one's trait-based and one's strengths. So you could have two people with the same OAD profile. One may have high influence strengths, and then that next person may have high relationship strengths. And so then how do you start to, evaluate and continue to coach on these different levels, and then bring in that variety that we spoke about, team engagement, executive coaching, team building, all of those types of things. And, that was important to me when I was designing my practice, was variety. And not only do I like it, but, the clients are going to appreciate that too.
Absolutely. And I know that you mentioned, not in this interview, but we've spoken, and that when we look at strengths and when we look at the way that our strengths fall in a particular order, there's a very unique aspect to that. So if you look at what people, the OAD sort of profile and how similar are those? So will you have people in an organization that have very similar OAD profiles, and then what makes them maybe unique is also laying some strengths over the top of those?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have two people with an influence pattern, which is an OAD pattern influencers are, highly assertive, very outgoing, middle range detail. And if, say that person has that profile and they have, analyze and command and some of those strong traits that are very influence or execution driven. And then the next person has a very similar influence pattern, but maybe they have woo or individualization, connectedness, and they're very much a relationship driven person. And so they show up different in the workplace. And people are like, oh, I have this or I have that. But when you take your traits and your strengths and you combine those, really gives you a kind of a 360 view of someone and what they bring to the table.
So I was thinking that by overlaying the strengths with the OAD, it helps people understand that even though they might have a similar sort of profile with the OAD, then you bring in their strengths and it creates, this is how each of us kind of, the lens we look through might be different and how we can blend all those together. And one of the main things that we do as coaches is increase awareness. And I think that using tools to help complement that can just kind of create that clarity, maybe just a little bit quicker or just at a different level, than also working to move towards that awareness through coaching can also maybe deepen that, bring it to another level. It's all these different dynamics that kind of come together that you're offering your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Strengths does that. I think with Strengths particularly, it gives a name to things that we do naturally. And, we've talked, sometimes we naturally do it a little too much, or, our strengths get offended every day. We enter the world with our mind and how we view things. And so when someone comes at us in a very different way, we're like, that's weird, or that offends me, or that doesn't seem natural. Well, it's just because they have different strengths. And so in the workplace, when you start to appreciate what someone brings to the table and appreciate why they're bringing it versus I just don't like it, or you can say to someone, hey, I appreciate you're deliberate. I appreciate that you found all these possible roadblocks, but we have to move forward through it. Bring me your top 3 versus just shutting someone down, saying you're just coming to me with the obstacles, really understanding that person and providing them guidelines so that you can work together in a healthy, productive environment.
Excellent. So both of these tools open doors for you. You've recently had some doors opened potentially with the OAD, which is very exciting. How did you leverage this potential very large client that you're hopefully going to close? How did you leverage that with these tools that we've talked about?
Yeah. So with the client that I'm currently working on, I did enter that conversation based on OAD only. But they are a client that's large. They have a lot of units or different offices around the United States. So OAD is great for high volume customers. And so I knew based on their profile, OAD would be a fit for them. And so I entered that conversation talking about a pre-employment assessment because it meets the EO standards. And I entered it from a team building, coaching, and just really what this tool can bring to their organization and the reduction of turnover and what that could financially mean to them. And that opened the door to the conversation. And then once that conversation started, then it was really learning their specific needs after I kind of looked at the company high level from an outsider's perspective, then understanding, and very similar to just coaching, understanding their needs, asking questions, helping them discover how a tool could help them and drive their business and their overall results. And then once you get through that obstacle, then, the rest of it's pretty smooth selling. With this client, because I am in the process of closing OAD, once that is closed, and I have that long-term relationship with them, because that is part of my business model, is I do become, someone that they can call on, a consultant, someone who's there for them. Then over time, as they have more things come up, then it opens it a conversation to what else I can do to help you. I don't feel like it would be right, at least for me, to walk in and sell all of it, whole thing, right at the beginning. So you do have to pace yourself and understand what that client needs at that time and approach them in that way.
Well, and the other thing that you said that I really want people to hear is marketing your practice is staying tuned into the client's needs. What does the client, you did an assessment, you paid attention to their needs, you asked questions, you helped them discover what would be helpful for them. It's not about here, let me fix this, let me prove to you how important what I'm bringing is for you. It's about how might there be a match and a fit, and let me start where you're at. And as you said, then develop the relationship, continue to keep your ears open for what's important for them, continue to bring that value. And it may or may not be that you take that to the next level, but if you're focused on what that client really needs, chances are, there will be more opportunity as long as you're focused on them and not on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, working with a client versus working with an individual, the practices are still the same. It's, what do they need at that time? And then how do you help them on their journey instead of forcing, our own agendas or needs or wants on an organization. And so,
or an individual. Absolutely.
Or an individual. Yeah. So, coaching traditional practices show up in selling, at least for me, and in the way that I do it that's comfortable for me.
I believe our core competencies within coaching can be absolutely reflected in the way that we market and build our business. We want to keep that active listening and that coaching presence and build that relationship and build trust and intimacy. I mean, all those are things that are just as relatable in the way that we market as in the way that we coach. So thank you for that wisdom and for your sharing the way that you've dynamically built your practice in such a way that meets your needs because you are using products and tools that you believe in, you did your due diligence, you had the opportunity to work with OAD for 10 years as an internal person, and then it made logical sense for you as you transitioned to outside practice that this is a tool that I believe in, that I believe can bring value, so I'm going to add it to my practice, sort of in this two-tiered practice that you have. Really dynamic stuff, and thank you for being willing to bring that forward for the audience.
Yeah, no problem. It's, building your practice is such an intimate act, and, finding what works for you and the products you believe in and understanding your core customer and pulling together, a practice that meets their needs, I think is, one of the biggest keys to successful coaching practice.
Excellent. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today. It's always wonderful to spend time with you, Jennifer.
All right. Thanks so much, Meg. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Being able to gain clarity about who we serve and how we get into their awareness is sometimes a challenge for us as we build our own businesses. And I really appreciate Jennifer joining us today to share the way that she has leveraged her different strengths to bring the best she can to her clients. If you'd like to know more about Jennifer Thornton or her business, 304 Coaching, be sure to visit starcoachshow.com, and we'll have information about Jennifer on our resource page. Also, I want to encourage you, let's start a discussion and visit us on Facebook at Star Coach Show. on Facebook, and we can have a discussion about what's really stood out for you in this interview and in others. We are so close to the launch of the membership site, and I've been getting great feedback. People ready to join the community, excited to join the community, to earn CEUs through the membership site, to see the raw, uncut videos of the interviews, and get members-only information and resources. So keep your ears primed for more information about the membership site, which will be launching in just over a week. Also, while you're on the Star Coach Show website, never forget about our ongoing book giveaway with books from our guests. We always have a great book that we're giving away. You don't want to miss that, but you can't win a book if you don't go to the website and the contact page and sign up for the free book giveaway. All right, then. I hope that you have a fabulous week. This is Meg Rentschler wishing you the very best for your coaching success. We'll see you next week.